I don't like not knowing. I don't like just having a day and not knowing what we're going to do. Even if it's just sit on the couch all day, I'm totally fine with that, but I need to know because I need to plan in my mind. And I realize how much of a bottleneck that is.
This is holistic self-improvement for entrepreneurs, for dream chasers, for people who want to do something different and carve their own unique path. There has to be some level of risk willingness.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was number 1124, Why Grateful Ambition is So Important for You. Today, for episode number 1125, How Certainty-Driven Are You? I was thinking the other day, Alan, I have not been to the beach. Well, technically we went to the beach for our photo shoot, but it was freezing out, windy, and it's not like we sunbathed and went in the water. But I have not gone to the beach recreationally. I could not tell you the last time. I'm not even sure when it was. Years at this point. But I was thinking back to a time...
You, me, Emilia, and Bianca in Florida.
That was the last time. Yep.
But it wasn't recreationally. I mean, we weren't like at the beach to like sunbathe.
No, I think we were doing content.
Yeah.
We're doing content.
Or just masterminding.
I got some good videos. That was when we got that unflattering picture of us taken.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
Oh, my God.
Brutal. Okay. I was thinking, for some reason, I don't know why, one of the things I do is I try to think of stories that I can bring to the podcast to add value to you if you are listening to this. And I thought of this time in my life where I was going to the beach more often. I was probably in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And I remember I always used to have this thing where I needed to know what time the beach opened, and I always wanted to be there right when the beach opened because I was always afraid we wouldn't get parking. I am a very, very, very certainty-driven human being. I require a lot of certainty. Now, that's changed a lot being an entrepreneur. There's not a lot of certainty in much of this journey. But I was thinking back to that, and I'm thinking to myself, where else did that show up in my life? And what did that stop me from doing? What did that help me do? What were my blind spots with that? And I was thinking, and this is kind of embarrassing, but again, I try to share everything I can to add value. Before I was married and before I had any partners, I was on dating sites, dating apps, just like a lot of people. And one thing I would always do, Alan, and I doubt you've ever had to do this, and you'll hear why in a second, I would always say, just an FYI, I'm like 5'4", 5'5". So if that's a problem, we don't have to meet up. I'm so certainty driven where one of my biggest fears is running into somebody and them saying, yeah, you're too short. Especially if I was going on a first date. Now you're 6'2". I doubt that's ever happened to you. So good for you. You son of a bee.
No, but I remember.
What do you remember?
When I was a freshman in high school, I was
short
5'3", I think. I hadn't hit puberty. I hit puberty very, very late, as you can see if you're on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I grew a foot between freshman year and junior year. Mm. And so I remember, I'll never forget what it was like to be
me,
super, super small and like a boy while everyone else looked like a man. So
That's how I
can
feel
relate.
Sometimes. That's how I feel. I have very large friends. I shared that picture from the wedding party it was Alan and my buddy Matt, and it said, what did it say? Just a man and his stepfathers or something? Because I literally look like a small child compared to both of them. But that's how certainty driven I was. I needed to make sure that everything was in my control. If I was going to get embarrassed, I didn't want to do it. It was like, let me solve the problem in advance. When it comes to parking situations, I'm still this way. I always check, like, where's the nearest parking? Do you need cash? I realize that I'm still a very, very certainty-driven human being, to the point where when Tara and I went to Colorado to get married, I was researching a lot of things because I wanted to make it special and I wanted to do dates and stuff. But I think I researched, how do you travel with a suit? Because I had my suit and Taryn had her wedding dress, and I was like, how the hell are you supposed to do this? We're not going to check it. How do you do that? But I really needed to know. I had to understand. And I checked if the plane had TVs. Some planes don't have TVs. The plane we flew out there on was the nicest plane ever. It was awesome. The TVs were great. It had like cable and it was awesome. It was the best thing ever. The one on the ride home, nothing. 0, goose egg.
No
Brutal.
kidding.
Yeah, it was brutal. What are we doing here, man? It's 2022. So I think I watched YouTube TV or something. So that is something about me that I know about myself, but that also affects the way I make decisions. This is the other thing too. It also can affect the way that you understand other people. If you assume people think the same way you do, you might be off in that. Alan and I, when we travel, it's very interesting. And this is probably why I do the logistics, is because I'm more certainty driven than you. So I want to make sure, I want to know what kind of rental car we have because I want to plan it. I want to know what time we have to be there, and I'll reverse engineer it. So I think it can be a unique strength for me, but it also can be something that holds me back if I allow it to. And I definitely have in the past for sure.
Well, every strength comes with a potential downside.
That's a fact.
And every weakness comes with a potential upside. We've done episodes like that before. Let me tell this story because this is indicative of the downside of not being certainty driven.
I think I know what's going to happen here. I think we'll see.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Okay, so Emilia and I went away this weekend. We went to upstate New York, and it was a 4-hour drive, and we woke up on Sunday. We slept in on Sunday because we both had really long weeks. Worked all day Saturday, had an awesome Saturday evening, and then just slept in on Sunday. I mean, I think we needed to check out of the Airbnb at 11. We ended up getting a late checkout at 1. And we slept in till 11. It's great. It's great. It's
wait. Were you worried about
Not even a little bit.
The checkout? Yeah, see, I'm already freaking out for you.
Yeah.
Imagine like somebody knocking on the door at 11, like, hey, it's time to go. And you're sleeping? No, I can't.
No, she was more. So we woke up at 10:45 or so and messaged the person. Granted, these people had mentioned to Emilia originally, who did the Airbnb, that you can also ask for a late checkout. So she had information. Yeah. But anyways, no, I wasn't concerned. So, because anyways, okay. So we're going to go for a hike. And she chose have you ever used All Trails? The app, All Trails? Yeah. Okay, so she chose a hike
this week's sponsor. Enter our code for 20% off.
For 20% off in All Trails.
I'm very much kidding.
Aligned, but
just
no,
FYI,
I know you are. I
am kidding everybody.
Yeah. So she really wanted to go to one of the mountains in the Adirondacks, which is going to be 2 hours north of where we stayed. We're like, no, because that's 2 hours north and then 6 hours home. Like, no, we both have like big weeks. We need to get home. So instead, we picked a place, a mountain in between where we were staying and where our home is. So we get there, and so late checkout, awesome. Wake up, late checkout. Clean the Airbnb, not clean it, but like get our stuff out, ready to rock and roll. So we go. We get to the trail, and the trail is in a different spot. So essentially, when you use Waze and you use All Trails, a lot of times, and by the way, in the mountains, there's no data, there's no service. So where we thought the beginning of the trail was actually different than where the trail really was. That's par for the course. No matter how well you plan, it always goes astray. Theory versus practice, another episode. But anyways, we get to the bottom finally, to the place where we're actually going to go to this peak, and we want to go to the summit. And so we're not here to mess around. We want to get to the summit. This hike was supposed to take 2.5 hours to the summit and then 2.5 hours back. And on our way up, there were people that were like, so like you guys are like going up? Like, are you going to the top? We're like, yeah. And we're hammering, right? We're crushing it. And this one guy's like very concerned for our safety, right? He's like, I'm like, how far are we from the top? Cranking. He's like, far, like really, really far. Like, you guys have flashlights? Like that kind of thing. Like, yeah, we're good. We got it. And the whole way up, and we are cranking on this hike. I'm like, sweetheart, we are either doing this or we're not. And it's like 5:00 p.m. right now. So like, we know that we're going to come down in the dark. This is like fairly reckless. Okay. Now, Emilia and I need very little certainty to move forward. And I'm just going to share that. Like, she's been an entrepreneur since she was a kid, grew up with an entrepreneurial family. I, for whatever reason, take massive risks and don't need a ton of certainty. Even when Kev was freaking out about money, I was like, we're going to be fine. Now, to a detriment. Now, there's a benefit to that, but it's also reckless, and that's what the story will illuminate. So we're like a third of the way up, And I'm like, sweetheart, if we're going to do this, we have to hammer. And we have no wiggle room, so we got to crank. Because if we're going to do this, I essentially said during the hike, like as we're going, like you do realize we're going to be hiking down this in the dark, like in the pitch black. Like I just want you to be aware, like that is going to happen. So either we stop and we turn around or we get to this damn summit and pay the consequences. Okay? So we end up getting to the top. Best view I've ever seen. Unbelievable, out of a movie level view. It was so unreasonably cup filling. And there's something cool, and maybe this is me being weird. There's something cool about being alone up there because no one else is willing to go up that mountain. These are like the mountains. Like there's no service, there's no cell towers, there's no civilization. The reason the view was so amazing is because there wasn't a single building, there wasn't a single house, there wasn't a single road. I mean, it was just mountains. And that was a little bit reckless because we're very far from any level of civilization. And obviously there's mountain lions, like there's bears, like for sure, 100%, right? This is the mountains. Okay. So, and we have little Tucker with us, right? And he's an awesome hiker. Like he's been hiking ever since he was a little puppy. So he was killing it. He was doing fine. And I was behind him. Emilia was in front of me. We were making sure he was good. And we actually carried him down. But and that's the only because of the clip we needed to go at on the way down to get as much sunlight as possible. So essentially we got to see the sunset from the top of the mountain, which is so cool, unbelievable, once in a lifetime experience, genuinely. And we will continue to do this, but we will not do this at dusk again. Here's the interesting thing. You've heard that quote of the hardest climbs lead to the best views. This 2.5 hour up, 2.5 hour hike down only took us 2 hours total. Mm-hmm. So we took a 5 hour total hike and did it in 2 hours, half of it in the dark. Now, that said, Emilia and I, the whole way up, my bells were ringing of like, this is a little reckless. Are we going to actually do this thing or are we going to turn around? And we've both had the conversation. When we set our mind to a goal, there's like kind of nothing that will ever get in our way. We just have to hit the goal. And so we're going to this summit. And we did it, and we did pay the consequences. We had to do the 2/3 of the way down was pitch black. Mm. And I'm talking like reckless level pitch black. And we both have our flashlights out, and she's checking the map, making sure. I mean, we went off the trail a couple times. It was genuinely scary. But here's my point, and I hopefully this will land for our listeners. If you do want to achieve great things, I'm just going to say it, you do have to take risks. Now, I'm not saying you have to be reckless to see a view no one else will ever see like we did. But you do, if you're going to chase your dreams, this is holistic self-improvement for entrepreneurs, for dream chasers, for people who want to do something different and carve their own unique path. I'm not saying to do what Emilia and I did. I'm not. Okay, that was reckless, and we talked when we got back to the car, like we need to stop doing things like that. Okay? But there has to be some level of risk willingness. You have to be, and I had a moment when we were doing this, I'm like, only her and I would be doing this. This is like very, very risky. This is not an intelligent choice. This is like a reckless, do whatever it takes to get to the goal type of moment. But there was this other part of me that does kind of know that's also what makes us different. Mm. And so while I don't want you to risk anything with real danger, I don't want you to swim with sharks for funsies just for the thrill of it. What I do want you to do is to realize that like Kevin took a risk going all in on the Hyperconscious podcast. I took a risk going all in on Conversations Change Lives. We took a risk by partnering up. We took a risk with every team member. We took a risk with this whole journey. We took risks in terms of spending money on credit cards to travel, to meet mentors that ended up paying off. Like we took a risk to travel to Toronto, knowing that Evan Carmichael could have canceled that interview. We took a risk with a $450 a night hotel room to interview David Meltzer in downtown Boston with money we didn't have at the time. We took a risk with free trial clients that might not have paid off.
I'm Derek Smith, and I just wanted to talk to you real quick about group coaching. I found it to be very beneficial. The biggest thing that I got from it was definitely the tap out and keeping track of the daily habits. It's much easier to get these priorities done when it's scheduled. That way you know that you're doing them first compared to trying to fit them in later. So scheduling it and getting that done first, and then having something accountable every single day to do those, was definitely beneficial. So if you're thinking about giving group coaching a chance, you should definitely do it.
While you do have to understand your risk tolerance, which is AKA how certainty driven are you, you also have to understand that some risk is required for a certain level of success. And I think that what we can all contemplate on this episode, hopefully, is where is your risk tolerance and what are the implications of that? And how do you move the pendulum? I'm realizing my risk tolerance is too far on the reckless end. And as I mature and grow, I do realize that I'm a little more reckless than I should be. And her and I talked too, when we have children, like we won't be taking risks like that. And I do know that. But she's on the very far end of reckless, and so am I. Whereas with you, Kev, I would argue you're way too far on the other end. So it makes sense that we've succeeded together because every time I'm ready to take this big leap, Kev's like, well, dude, I don't know, man. And vice versa. And Kev might have stayed in his comfort zone more without me. Not might have, definitely would have.
Definitely.
And I would have been probably more reckless without him. No, not might have. I definitely would have been. And I think it's important to drive to 5, but how do you do that with yourself? Because you don't necessarily have a business partner to check you or to help you find 5. And Emilia and I talked about that. Last thing I'll say, money, dollar next to the Hope Foundation.
Yep.
All right. Last thing I'll say about this is another dollar. Emilia and I had a conversation where it was like my risk tolerance is very high, and so is hers. So we don't have anyone to check. Like the whole way up, it was like, well, neither one of us want to be the one to not achieve the goal, because we really wanted to get to the summit. We really wanted to see the view, and it took longer than we thought, and the sun went down quicker than we thought. And we didn't have service because I kept asking Siri, like, when does the sun go down here in New York in the fall? Beautiful in the fall with the foliage, but she wasn't available. So it's like, well, we don't really know, but we see it going down, right? Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's a story that I think is a good indicator of the pros and cons of being too far in either extreme.
That was the number one, great story. Number 2, don't get dead, please. I need you. And, we need you around. Emilia needs to be around. Tucker needs to be around.
For sure.
I remember in the beginning, that was the hardest part for me, was the uncertainty of being an entrepreneur. Now, there's still uncertainty, but now I know what I'm doing every single day, which is great. Because there's a lot of surprises, but my calendar's pretty much, that's what's going to happen the next day. Things come up, things get changed, but that thing that was very difficult in the beginning is actually way better now. And I think of when Tara and I went to Colorado, one of the hardest things for me was not knowing what we were going to do. I don't like not knowing. I don't like just having a day and not knowing what we're going to do. Even if it's just sit on the couch all day, I'm totally fine with that, but I need to know because I need to plan in my mind. And I realize how much of a bottleneck that is. So that's something that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this.
But that's also a strength. That's the interesting thing.
It is a strength, but it can be a weakness if I allow it to stop me from doing things when I don't have certainty.
Right.
Which is often.
What's the advice that you would give to our listeners about particularly the entrepreneurial thing? Because if you are a dream chaser, which you are, you're listening to this, even if it's a fitness dream, you're going to have to get outside your comfort zone and risk, going to that gym you don't want to go to because you're afraid to be out of your league, or talking to that mentor you don't want to talk to because you're intimidated. I guess, let me ask you this, just what do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of my risk tolerance?
Oh boy. The likelihood of you getting hurt is pretty high. Whether it's running the marathon with no training, doing this. I know when you were prepping for one of your bodybuilding shows back in the day, you'd go running at night in the woods. When you went for a run, when you last traveled to wherever it was, I'm going to have to start coming with you, I think. I'm going to have to jump in your suitcase and make sure you don't go out for a midnight stroll amongst the creatures. That kind of stuff. But it's different because it's, if I say I'm going to get the goal, I must get the goal. So I think that's the upside, is you're going to do whatever it takes. The downside is you're going to do whatever it takes. I think it's the same.
A lot of those are calculated risks.
Fair.
And no, don't get me wrong, they're reckless. But I remember thinking to myself, and on the drive home, I was telling Emilia this is actually riskier being in this car than technically what we just did.
Fair.
Because mountain lions are real and bears are real, but like the amount of mountain lion deaths per year are ridiculously low. But based on how many people get caught at night in a mountain,
Yeah, I was gonna
there's
say.
a lot more people that drive cars, right? So, but mathematically, we calculated 0.2% chance we get killed. And again, that's what my brain spit out. But the point is yes, 100%. So it's a benefit because when you do set your sights on a goal, I have blinders, kind of, and whatever it takes to get the goal. But yeah, you're likely to get hurt. Not just physically, but you are likely to get emotionally hurt. Emilia and I on the way down, and hopefully this will be valuable for people, we had a moment where it was very much like, okay, feelings don't matter, all results. And I was talking her up. I was like, keep your energy high. We literally jogged some of it. Any of the parts that you could jog, we did. We picked Tucker up. He was like our football. And again, I'm not recommending. At the end of the day, we both admit we made a mistake. Like, let's make sure we don't make that choice again. Like, in hindsight, we would have gone down, 45 minutes up and then down, and we would have been fine. But I think it's important to also understand the benefit of there's something about when you're willing to do whatever it takes, even if you are risking being hurt, especially emotionally.
Yeah.
And I think that even falling in love is such a major risk. It's such a big risk. You're very likely to get very hurt. I mean, I have clients that are married, and I have, the amount of hurt that happens when you are deeply in love. So life requires risk. Jim Rohn has this great quote. It's so fascinating. He's like, he says jokingly, he's like, well, someone came up to me one time and said, well, I'm looking for certainty and security. And he said, okay, well, go huddle in a corner. We'll put a blanket over you, bring you 3 meals a day. Right? But what kind of life is that? Yeah, you'll be safe. We'll make sure no one hurts you, never get hurt. But what kind of life is that? And so there's got to be a 5 here. And I'm not saying to go on my end of reckless. I do realize that putting yourself in actual danger is just unintelligent. But there has to be a part of you that wants something beyond the now bad enough to take a risk. Risk your heart, risk vulnerability, risk asking, risk looking dumb, risk taking that class that you might get an F in. I failed my first electrical computer engineering course. I graduated with high distinction from one of the best tech schools in the world, and I failed my first course in my major. And I didn't change course. I just stuck it out. Surrounded myself with the smartest people I could find, and I worked a little harder. But I don't know. There's something to that. So hopefully there's value in this. I don't think you should be like me. I don't think you should be like Kevin. I think you should figure out where you're at and then dial it to the 5. If you're overly risk averse, you're never going to achieve your dreams. And I'm going to be the first to tell you that. And that's just the truth. Okay? If you're overly risk tolerant, you're probably reckless, and you're probably not optimal, and you're probably hurting people along the way and don't care about the destruction you cause. Because yes, while I wanted to achieve the summit, and I did, what if Tucker got hurt? Right? Like that kind of stuff. And so I'm not perfect. You're not either. Kevin's not. How do you get a little bit more optimal when it comes to this?
I thought you were going to tell the story of the previous Airbnb debacle. Wherever it was. I don't remember where you went. Remember the Airbnb you had to clean?
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna tell that story. That's why I said I think I know where you're going with this. We'll save that for another one because I know it sucks. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I think one of the things that really helped me was my old job, traveling. I used to get in a van, punch in an address, and drive to somewhere I'd never been, and then that was kind of it. It's like I don't know what the job looks like. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what hotel we're staying at. That definitely helped me a lot. So it doesn't have to be huge travel, but small traveling has helped me because you can consciously say, you know what? I'm not going to Google every restaurant in the area. I'm just going to go and see what happens. Or I'm not going to Google every whatever it is. I'm not going to Google the reviews for this movie or the reviews for this TV show or whatever it is. I'm just going to do it. That's helped me a lot, but it's a conscious decision. I'm very certainty driven. I think that's why this journey has been so challenging for me, especially the beginning.
Some people, Kev, are too far on that end to where they're not researching and making better decisions based on that research.
Yeah.
You know, because you might want to read the reviews, and that way you don't end up watching a bunch of crappy movies.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a benefit to both sides. It depends on where you're at. I think being in the middle is being in the messy middle, being in the optimal stop.
The drive to 5, someone
The drive
say?
to 5. The drive
That
to
could be
5.
your first tattoo, maybe on your forehead. You could get the drive to 5. What do you think?
No, man. I'm not reckless enough for that.
Do you want to think about it maybe for a
It's too risky.
It's too risky. That's definitely
it's too
risky for a lot of reasons. All right, we're going to get out of here. Next Level Nation. We are still giving away money. So if you want to, if you have not yet left us a review, if we have shaped your life, if we have given you a breakthrough, if we have said something, if I have said something that's made you laugh, that's usually me that does that. That's just the way it is. Please leave us a review, screenshot it, send it to myself, send it to Alan. We will enter you into a drawing to win a $100 Amazon gift card. At the end of the month, we will pick a winner. If there's 100 people, we'll pick a winner. If there's one person, we'll pick a winner, and it'll be you. Please, the more reviews we get, the more we can help other people, because most people are certainty driven. And they're going to look and say, how many reviews does this show have? What are people saying about it? Am I the type of person that would listen to that? So if you are the type of person who would listen and you want to help more people like you listen, please leave us a review. We'd be gratefully gratefully appreciative. Is that a word? A series of words? So. That's what I'm going with.
Strong work.
Thank you.
If you are, we talked a lot about risk tolerance here. Have you calculated the risk of not finding your genius zone? Ooh.
Nice.
Ooh.
Well said.
Thanks, brother.
Nice.
Took a risk.
Took a risk and it paid off.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Thanks, man. Monthly meetup number 11. This is our 11th, as you know, monthly meetup. We do them every month. This is for November 3rd, 2022. It starts at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How to find your unique genius zone. There is a huge risk with you not finding that. We are all uniquely us. We're all uniquely suited to something. And if you don't know what that is for you, there's a huge risk in not figuring that out. Because what if your greatest potential, your greatest contribution, and your greatest profitability are in a genius zone that you haven't discovered yet? It's very, very important to figure that out, and don't go another day without knowing at least getting a little closer to that, I'm 33 years old now. I feel like I'm more in my genius zone than I've ever been, and things are working way better than they used to. And it's obvious now in hindsight. So let us help you with that. I've helped a lot of people with that. Kevin has as well. And that monthly meetup, the registration link will be in the show notes.
I told Alan this today. The monthly meetups are quickly becoming one of my favorite things because it's behind the scenes. We're very used to being in front of the scenes, and I love that. But we get to connect with the audience, the community at a deeper level. We can tell different stories that we won't necessarily tell on the podcast, and it's a great opportunity for you to meet us at a deeper level. So it's always free. We'd love to have you. Please join if you are interested. Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1126, knowing when it's time to change course. Very excited about that one. I know Alan has a very good story. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.